Hi, I thought we'd just do a quick follow-up video on the StreetGUARDIAN dash camera. So I've been running this for a couple of days now in my car, on my commute to work and also while running some errands yesterday. And overall I've been really quite impressed with the image quality. It's definitely better than some of the ones that I've seen on the internet. The only downside that I've found so far is somehow it managed to lose 3 minutes of footage. And I don't know if that's from me copying it to the computer when I did it yesterday. Unfortunately, I did a file move rather than a copy, so I lost all the original contents on the SD card, and for whatever reason it didn't appear on the computer. But other than that, and we'll see how reliable that is over time now, but other than that, it seems to be really quite good. So it records the footage in 3-minute segments. I think you can change that to 1 minute or 5 minute as well, so that the most it's going to lose is whatever that time period is. And then you can use the program, I think it's called Registrator Viewer, written by some guy in Russia, and you can just load all of the files into there and it works out the individual journeys, and then you can have a look at the map and things like your speed and obviously the dashcam footage. So we'll have a quick look at the menu interface. I didn't have a look at that the other day because I didn't know how to use the device, and then we'll have a look on the computer at some of the footage and also the program that you can use to view the files. So I think I'm a couple of versions behind on the firmware on this device. I haven't upgraded it to the latest at the moment, so some of the stuff may be updated on here from what I'm showing you now. But overall the operation of the device is really simple, and once you've configured it, you just need to power the device up and it will start recording immediately. So in the menus you can change things like the resolution, although on this device, on this firmware, it's fixed at full HD. They've got loop recording, but really this is just how long each of the segments that you record are. So you can choose here between 1, 3 and 5 minutes, and basically it just records segments of video and then you can stitch them together in the program. You can turn on or off wide dynamic range, which makes scenes that have very light and dark areas in it appear in greater detail. You can change the exposure, although if you leave it at the default at 0, the scenes seem to be relatively well illuminated, so I don't think you'd ever really need to change that function. You can turn on and off motion detection, which records events if it detects any movements on the camera. You can turn on and off the internal microphone, so whether you record audio or not, and you can enable or disable the displaying of the date stamp actually embedded on the video rather than just in the video file. Then you can turn on and off the splash logo that comes on when you turn it on, turn on and off GPS and also the G sensor. Oops. And then in the settings you've just got the date and time, but once you've set up your date and time it picks it up off the GPS, so you don't ever need to set that again. Obviously you've got the time zone as well. Boot delay, so you can tell it to wait a certain amount of time from turning on before it starts booting up. I guess that's if your engine needs to crank for a few seconds just so it doesn't try and start recording while the battery voltage is dropped. And then there's also an option to enable or disable automatic power off. Then also we've got whether the device beeps every time you press a button, all of the languages, TV mode, so NTSC or PAL, and there's a audio visual output on the top here which you can feed into a standard monitor if you wanted to, and then obviously the frequency as well, so for 50 Hz countries or 60 Hz countries, that's only relating to the TV mode. Then we've got the screensaver, so how quick it turns off the display from you pressing any of the buttons. You can format the SD card and then return to defaults, and then you can give it some ID for what car this device is in, and it embeds that information in the video file. So there's not a great deal to the unit. Basically once you've set it up you shouldn't need to do anything. So now let's just have a quick look at the video footage. So here we are in the Registrator Viewer application, and basically once you've copied all of the files off the SD card from the dash camera, you can import them into here, and you'll have loads of files in the folder. Each will be 3 minutes long if you've kept with the standard file size. And then on the bottom right here, it will show you all of the journeys that you've made, and in the brackets it shows you how many video files that's been made from. And then also you've got the trip length, the average speed, and the number of megabytes and resolution for each group of files. Along the bottom here you've got your entire journey, so you've got the actual time, and then you've got time in minutes along the top, and you can skip anywhere along there if you want to see certain parts of your journey. You've obviously got the speed outlined here in the blue line, and then this section at the bottom here is where it shows any of the readings from the accelerometer. Now, it doesn't seem to continually read from the accelerometer, so it's only if you have an impact or something like that where it actually shows a reading on here, but it doesn't just show the acceleration just during normal use. So here we are in relatively poor driving conditions. It's actually raining quite hard at this point, although you can't actually see that, and I think a lot of this is down to the bitrate of the video. Just 15 megabits per second isn't quite enough to be able to see the details. You'll also notice that the number plates are only readable at quite short distances, and that's definitely down to the poor conditions and quite a lot going on in the scene. I'd estimate in these conditions you can only see the number plates on the cars here at probably about a third of the distance that you can actually see it by eye. Here we are in much better driving conditions. It's still relatively low light at this point. It was quite early in the morning, but the headlights are doing quite a lot to improve readability of number plates. I'd estimate that probably you can read number plates at just over half of the distance that you can see them by eye. But in better conditions it's clearly capturing video at a much higher quality. Everything looks very slightly sharper and you can see the details quite well. You can read road signs and that kind of thing quite a long way off. You'll also notice there doesn't appear to be too much vibration in the video. It's fairly stiffly mounted to the windscreen and the sport suspension in the car is quite stiff, so I'm surprised that you're not seeing a lot more vibration. I don't think there's any image stabilization in the software, but it's definitely a lot better than I was expecting. So here we are with direct low sun in the morning, and I was struggling to see here even with sunglasses on, so the camera's doing a great job of the wide dynamic range in this part of the video. Obviously you can't read number plates all that well with the direct sun, but it's certainly picking up objects really well, and you definitely see any incidents on the video files. So overall I'm relatively impressed with the quality of the camera footage. Obviously there's only a limited number of pixels in full HD video, and with a very wide angle lens you're not going to be able to pick up some of the details at a further distance that you would do with a telephoto lens. So there is a compromise to be made between having a camera with a very wide angle lens and a more narrow angle lens, but obviously you can see the details quite well, and if you were in an incident you would note down the number plates and that kind of thing. Obviously it's a slight concern that it potentially lost that 3-minute section of video, but whether that was down to me copying from the SD card, I don't know, so only time will tell whether there is a reliability issue with the camera. And I'm not running the latest firmware, so in the later releases there may be some fixes for some reliability issues and some other things. It's a relatively new model, so there's a good chance that there's some bugs early on. So I purchased this from a web store in Northern Ireland. I paid about €250 or about £180, which is towards the upper end of the car camera market, although I did pay for the upgraded edition which had the 64GB SD card and a few extra accessories. But overall the kit was quite comprehensive, although I'm choosing not to use quite a lot of it as I'm going to do a custom install. And I'll probably do a video when I do that, just so any owners of the Mondeo can see where to pick up the various feeds. But overall I'm quite happy with this camera, and if I have any problems in the future with it I'll probably update with another video just to show any of the flaws that I've found so far. So if anyone's thinking about buying this camera, please feel free to leave some comments down below or any questions, and I'll try and answer them as best I can. So if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and thanks for watching.